Guys, can you once confirm me you are able to see my screen and also you are able to hear me well? Like confirm me the same, we can start right now.
Yes, Kamlesh.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So, time for a quick discussion and a quick recap of everything that we are doing for the last few days. Okay. So, it's been around 10, 11 sessions. Let's just recap everything. So, I kind of created few questions. No need to worry. I will be solving it with you. I'll be asking you guys different things. You guys can ask me different things. Oh, you guys are asking me different things for the last few days. Okay, let me ask you guys few things. But it's just like a discussion. So let's just hear it out from everybody, and let's everybody start sharing your thoughts about all these questions that I'll be asking you. And let's just go through few questions and let's just test our understanding. Okay. So I'll be starting one quiz here. So you're gonna be answering me all these questions, and I'll be start clicking all these things. Okay, just raise your hand, or like don't answer it like together. We all will be start speaking, right? We all will start participating. Not a problem. I just want to understand that everybody are in the same page. So the first question: what is a spring bean? Look at the question and let me know if you know the answer. The first option that you have, any Java object that is managed by Spring is called Spring Bean, or any Java object that is managed by JVM is called Spring Bean. Which of the
First one.
First one? Okay. Don't answer. Okay, you can answer. No, not a problem. Okay. First one is the answer. Okay. What do you mean by the second one? Any Java object that is managed by JVM is called, it's not called Spring Bean, but what it is called? Anybody? Anyone? I spoke about it.
Object.
Pojo?
Pojo?
Pojo.
Yes. Pojo. Correct. So Pojo means any plain raw Java object or any plain all Java object is called Pojo. Like any object that you create in Java is called Pojo. And if an object is managed by Spring, then that's called a Spring Bean. Let's go to the next question. Look at the question. Add value can help us loading values from, like, choose all the options that applies. Like what are the different sources to load values and inject it to a variable using the add value annotation. Let me know what are the options over here are correct. Okay. Vijay. Yeah, Vijay, you can go ahead, please.
Environment properties.
This is correct. Okay, we can load the environment properties value using add value.
Properties file.
Properties file also correct. VM arguments, is that correct?
No.
Yes, correct.
This is also correct. Is it this one is correct or not correct?
Yeah, correct.
No.
Vinita?
No.
No?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, Hemant, what do you think?
Yes, sir.
Answer me. This one I have to choose or don't have to choose? Any answer, please?
It's correct.
Correct?
Abhilash.
Okay. Going ahead. So you can use the add value annotation. You can just get the values from environment properties. Environment, I should be writing environment properties in the sense I'm talking about the system environment properties where you have like Java home, like I have shown you, right? Like you can go to your terminal and you can just use set here, right? And all these variables that you have inside these are my system variables. Like you have M2 home, Java home, all my username, password. These all are key value pairs, right? All these things they can just load using @value annotation. And these are called environment properties. Properties file, you can keep properties file inside a class path or inside a all total different project and can load them using an annotation. And what is that annotation which can help you to load properties file?
@ property source.
@property source. There's a second option. You can load properties from a different project or from a class path. And VM arguments means what? Anybody? Like whenever you are running any programs? Yeah.
Right click on the project, run configurations.
Yeah, run
And,
configuration.
VM
and run.
arguments is there.
And
From
here
there
you can just give dash t
You
and
can
you
do-
can just give a key value, right? And this
Even
value
an environment also there, right?
in the environment also is there. You can also add values right over here, and you can also load it using the add value annotation. You can load those keys. Okay, that's correct. Let's go to the next question. So all these three I'm checking. Next question. So which of the following option is correct about Spring IOC container? Okay, Spring create and manages Bean inside the IOC container. Spring IOC container inverts the process of object creation. It creates and assembles the object and let the developer use the Bean. Application context and BeanFactory are the examples of the IOC container.
All of above.
All of the above?
Yeah. All of the above.
Okay. Perfect.
Yes.
So, okay, that's correct. Let's go for the next. How @component scan detects the Spring Beans? Look at the option. @component scan scans the JVM context, find all the Java beans, and then converts all the Java beans to the Spring Bean. Can somebody tell me is this statement is correct or not?
Second one.
Second one.
Second one is correct.
Look at this. No, I have written a nice story here. Okay. @component scans different packages, which is present inside the class path. It looks for any classes which are annotated with @component, repository, service, and makes it as Spring Bean. Okay, so I think you know about it. Let's go for the next one. Okay, now tell me.
Hello. Hi,
Yeah.
this is Sharath.
Hi, Sarath. Yeah.
Can you go back to the previous question?
I don't know if I have the option. I think I have not enabled the option or something. I think I
Okay,
have not
that's
enabled
fine.
the option, Sarath. Okay. I think I should have the option. I don't know why it is not visible, the back button. I think I have not enabled it, Sarath. So yeah, ask me a question. Ask me a question.
Okay. In the option, it is mentioned the term JVM context. Can you explain what does it mean? I mean,
JVM context. I mean by that, like all the Java beans, Sarath, they are also getting managed inside the JVM, right? JVM also has a container. Like Servlet has a container, Spring has a container, J2E, any J2E framework, they are having containers. Like JVM is also having a container, right? Like hypothetically, where all your Java objects are getting managed, isn't it? Sarath?
okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like I have just written a story like Spring scans that JVM context, finds all the bean and Java bean, and then convert it to Spring Bean, which is not true. Okay. Now look at this, guys. So my question, look at the question, then I'll simplify it. I'll show you the code. I've written the code for this as well. See, which of the object will be injected through the field injection to a variable called teacher. So basically here I have a class called student. Listen to me, don't see the question. I have a class here called student, and here I have a variable called teacher. So my question is, to this teacher variable, which object will be injected? Okay, so that's my question. Which object will be injected through the variable, to the field injection to a variable called teacher present inside the student component? So basically, the same example I'm going to show you. I'm going to showing you in the code. So let's go to this project. See, guys, I have a teacher class. Is the same example I'm taking from the previous lessons so that it will be easy for you. I have a teacher class. Okay, sorry, teacher interface. It has a teach method. There are two implementation for teacher. Control T. There is a math teacher here. Okay, look at that. Math teacher implements teacher, overrides the teach method, and starting the math class, whenever you're going to call the teach method of the math teacher, this is something which is going to be printed. And this is a component and marked as primary. Can somebody tell me what do you mean by @primary annotation? What it does?
By default, this will
take first.
It will take the first priority.
Yeah.
When there will be a bin conflict. Okay.
Yes.
Like whenever we're injecting any dependency and we have multiple candidates available who are okay to be auto-wired, then add primary will comes into the picture and will make that particular bean primarily available for for the dependency injection. So now the math teacher is going to be taking the priority if multiple bean for teacher is available. Right now, this is one bean, and another implementation for teacher is also available. Control T, go to the science teacher right here. So math teacher is there, then the science teacher is also here, and look at that, it's a component. So right now the question is, if you're going to go to the student class, right? If you're going to go here, look at that. You have the teacher here. It is auto-aware. If I don't write the qualifier, this will not going to give me any error or exception because I have mentioned the science teacher as primary. But the catch is I have also given qualifier here and mentioned science teacher here. Okay, then I have a learn method where I'm calling the teach method of the teacher interface. Now the question is, if you're going to do control and open implementation, there are two implementation, or in this case, three. Don't worry about computer science teacher. I have just shown you math teacher and science teacher. Tell me which one will be injected.
Science teacher.
Science teacher.
Science teacher.
Science teacher.
Why do you think so?
Qualifier is the first preference.
Qualifier is the first preference, then the primary. If the qualifier is not there, then the primary one is the math teacher. So math teacher would have injected. Okay. So let's just taste it for everyone's sake. I'll just go to the app.java. I think I've already written the code. I am creating my container here out of my configuration class and calling the student class learn method. Right click, run a Java application. Now the qualifier is in place. So the math class, I think qualifier is in place or not in place? Or it's not in place. So the math teacher is taking the priority because the at primary annotation is there. Then if you're going to go to the student class, and if you're going to inject the science teacher using the at qualifier, then this is going to come into the picture, right? Then the primary will be discarded and the qualifier will take the priority. Okay, perfect. Next one. So here the answer is same question I have asked. So get bean of student.class.learn method will call the science teacher teach method. Okay. Next, look at this question. If you want Spring to manage a model mapper bean, and model mapper is a third-party library bean, which of the following way you will be defining the bean? Annotate the model mapper class with add component annotation. Create a model mapper bean using add bean annotation. Which one is correct?
Add bean annotation.
Okay. Add bean annotation. Because add bean annotation you'll be using whenever you are dealing with any third-party libraries, and if you want those third-party libraries bean to be managed by your Spring container. Perfect. Next, how singleton beans are initialized? Singleton beans are eagerly initialized or lazily initialized?
Eagerly.
What do you mean by eagerly initialized? Anybody can explain? Like, what do you mean by? Go ahead, Sunil.
I mean, whenever it requires, at that time, it will give the object.
I understand that, Anjum, but what do you mean by that eagerly initialized? Initializing means what? When the objects are getting created, right? So when the singleton beans objects are getting created, anybody?
When the application when we are creating the container object.
When we are creating the container object.
Yeah.
When we are creating the container object, that time the container scans for the application context file. It looks for all the beans which are available, and if there is no scope defined, by default they are singleton beans, and they will be all eagerly initialized. That means all those objects of those beans will be created and will be maintained inside the container. And how can you force a bean to get lazily initialized? Any ideas?
At lazy annotations.
At lazy annotation, number one. Number two, I have not discussed here, but I have discussed in some free courses. Any other thing?
Fetch type annotation.
Which one, Hemant?
Fetch type. Fetch type equal to lazy.
I don't get it.
Fetch type, sir. He's saying fetch type.
Fetch type annotation. Okay. Fetch type annotation. Okay. Any other thing?
You can make it scope.
Bean is prototype, then also
Exactly, Vinita. Yeah. Prototype bean scoped, right? If you're making a bean prototype, then obviously that bean will not get priority. whenever the container will be initialized, those bean will be ignored if the scope is defined as prototype. And then like whenever you are asking for that bean to the container, that, hey, container, get me the bean, then those bean will be given to you. Fine. Next one, look at this. Which of these dependency injection types is recommended by Spring? Setter injection, constructor injection, field injection. I spoke about it. I haven't spoke about it particularly in your morning sessions, but previously spoke about it in some other videos. I just want to know, what is dependency?
Constructor injection.
Why?
Setter injection.
Why? Why constructor? Why Spring people are not telling us to use the field injection? It is working, right? We are using field injection all over our classes. Because constructor injection,
whenever a Spring creates an object, like internally it calls the constructor. Like
exactly.
All the time.
Yes, that's the perfect answer. Like you don't have to basically manually call the constructors. Just mention your dependency inside the constructor, and Spring will invoke that constructor, and Spring will take the responsibility to inject the bean using the constructor. So you don't have to worry as a developer by specifying explicitly the autowire annotation. So Spring will make sure the dependencies are set all the time. Next one, look at this. Which of the following is not a stereotype annotation?
Last one.
Last one. Why you are saying these three are stereotype annotation?
I have read previously, that's why.
No, yeah, Sunil, that's the correct answer. Like bean is not a stereotype annotation, where component, repository, service, controller, these are the stereotype annotation. So
because all the first three are defined upon top of the class actually, whereas at the rate bean it is defined like in method level.
Got it. Yeah, I can take a good point out of it. Yeah, I'll go into that, accepting that answer. So what Vijay said, like all these three things we are defining on top of a class, but bean is we're using in method level. Okay. So, but why you are calling it stereotype? These three, or controller also is stereotype. Yeah.
Top three are components actually.
Yeah, go like one by one, please. Yeah.
Each annotation has its own purpose. So, for example, repository, we defined it yesterday in the previous class. You mentioned that we ideally mention the repository class whenever there is something related to database. Something.
Exactly.
So that is something. A stereotype is ultimately a group of people. Generally, we do say. So it is what we are. I mean, in general.
Spot on,
general English.
Yes, that's the answer. You have already explained it. So these all three are like defining some specific roles, right? So as Sarath said, repository we're defining on top of a database related kind of class that we are having. We're defining repository on top of that. Where we are having the business logic on that kind of class we're using at service, right? And this repository service are some more specific version of component, which is also a stereotype annotation. So these three annotation does some specific work or does have a specific role. So that's why they are called stereotype. If you're going to go to dictionary and look for the general definition of stereotype, it means defining a specific role, right? And the repository service component help us to define a specific role. We are still recapping Spring Core, but I am sure that you have gone through the MVC sessions. You have understood about it. Controller annotations, right? Inside the on top of the controller classes, we're not writing at the red component. At the red component also will work. All these annotations internally is having at the red components, right? But at controller means we are specifically know, okay, that's the class which is a controller. That's the class which is a repository or having some repository related operations, which is database specific. I think that's how we are categorizing it. And all this, you can also see all these annotations are available inside a package called Stereotype inside your Spring framework. But this is not inside the Stereotype package. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Can autowire annotation be used on top of the collection? Yes. No.
Yes.
Yes, Vinita. So what should I go with? Yes or no? I have an example. I know you'll be confused because I have not explained it. That's why knowingly I did put this one. Look at this. You have a collection bean. You have names as a collection, string, list of strings here. Okay. Now you have a getter and setter for this names, this collection, and you have a print name method where you are printing this name variable here. Okay. Now what you are doing, you have a configuration class where you are creating a bean for name, right? And like here you are defining a bunch of name, Vilas, Ramesh, Ramya, Kiran, Praveen, and you're returning all this thing as a list of string, and you're marking it a bean. So let me just make it names so that this name and this name matches. So do you think right now the bean that I'm creating here, all these things will be injected to this names because this is AutoWare and it's a list of string? I'm just narrowing the AutoWaring thing down by giving the bean name as names. And I also have a same bean available called names here and marking it as AutoWord annotation. So do you think right now, whenever I'm printing it, I'll be getting all my names here that I have injected in my configuration file or that I have defined in my configuration file using a bean annotation? So I'll go to app.java and now I'm calling that print name methods. I'm doing container.getBean of collection bean.class, and I'm calling this print name method, which is going to print me the name. So do you think like I'll be getting it, or like where is that class? I'll be getting the names, or I'll not be getting the names if I'll be running this? Any ideas?
Won't be getting the names.
I won't be getting the names. Lipika?
I think you'll get it.
I'll get it. Yeah. Aditi? Anju? Ashok? Yeah. You want to go ahead? Go ahead.
I think you will get.
I'll get.
I think we'll get.
We will get.
Yes,
We will be able to inject map, string, list, integer, list of integer, list of string. Everything is possible. But you know what? The problem is I have not explained it. That's why knowingly I have put this question, because you should understand that we'll be able to inject the collection type also. A list type also will be able to inject it by putting a AutoWord annotation. It's possible. More on this is coming in the next sessions. Okay. So not only list, you can also inject map. Okay, that's also possible. And right now I have done is field injection. You can also do a constructor injection. Okay, we'll come into that later. So, okay. One question, one quick question. Okay, so if I'll go to my application here, the variable name is names, right? And here in my application configuration class, the bean that I've defined here, the bean name is names because I don't have any specific name for this bean. So this one and this one is matching, right? So the injection is happening. So what will happen if I'll go ahead and remove this S from here? Do you think it will still work?
No.
No or yes? Now this is different. I'm creating a bean, returning a list of string, and here I have names. Here I have name. So do you think it will be injected? No? How the AutoWaring works? First by name, by type. Anybody?
Yeah,
by type is working. By type will happen. It will happen. It will work to the by type right now. Do you think so? Right click. Run
Yes.
application. Let's see that it's working, right? Because the names are not matching. The type is matching, right? The list of type, list of what is that? Like, can I go over there? Here is returning a list of string, right? And also here we have a list of string. Okay. But what about if I have another variable? Just confusing you. We'll go into that detail in later sessions. Let's say I have, another bunch of names. Then what will happen? It will not work. It will get me an exception or something. I'm creating the getter and setup. Okay. And I'm also printing this. Control C, sys out, and sys out, and pasting it. Another bunch of names. Now, names is here. Another bunch of names is here with the same type. Okay. different name, variable names are different, but the same type. And here I have only one bean. Okay. And here let's say some random blah, blah, blah name. Okay. Now the names will not match, right? But the type will match. But there are a couple of types in my collection bean available, right? This is one type. This is also the same type. Okay. Now I'm printing the names and another name. So what should happen? Exception? Or
Exception.
Yes,
No.
exception.
Or it will be injected to all the bins.
Injected.
Exception.
It is injected to 2 bins.
It will be injected to 2 bins.
Exceptions.
Exceptions. Right click. Java application. Injected to all the couple of bins. Okay. We'll be going into this. We'll be talking about the collection injections in depth in the coming sessions. Okay, so just remember that we'll be able to we'll be able to inject collections, map, like set, everything will be able to inject using your application configuration file, creating a bean like this, and also from your XML file as well. Okay, perfect. Now let's go to the next one. Let's not go ahead. Yeah.
Abhilash, one thing, like if we have the similar kind of a thing here, like, which returns a list or string, but with a different name in that case, will there be an exception?
We'll go into that in the next session, Preeti.
Okay.
We'll be covering many different scenarios. Let's not go into that because a lot of questions will arise. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
We'll ignore it for today. Just for this sec of question, I have just written that example. I don't want to give you those different scenario examples, but yeah. Anyhow, just keep that in mind. We'll come back to that in the next session. And not next to next one. Okay, next one will be on proxy. Okay, so the next one is application context is a resource loader. Yes, please.
Yes, sir, please.
Yes. So why do you think so, Aditi? Or like,
Yeah.
Why do you think so? Is there
We want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is interface is there. Resource loader.
Interface is there. Control
yes,
application context, and application context extends to resource pattern resolver, and that extends to resource loader. And what this resource loader does, anybody? I have already shown you examples.
Yeah, if you want to see your logo.
Yeah, logo. Yeah.
You explain that one. Yeah.
Exactly. Logo, banner, properties file, or any resources if you want to load to your application, then the resource loader will help you, and the application context will help you to load the resources. Okay. We spoke about it in the AwareInterface session, if you forget about it. The next one, what happens when an AutoWire annotation does not find a dependency that need to be injected? Okay, let's say there is a class, it has a dependency marked with @AutoWire annotation. Now the AutoWire fails. If it fails, then what will happen? It will throw an exception or null value will be assigned.
I think null value will be assigned.
Null value throws exception.
Throws exception or proxy value will be injected. See, Spring works with proxy now. So if something will not injected, then proxy will be created. Spring will inject the proxy, right? I don't know. I'm asking you.
Throws exceptions.
Which
throws exception.
Srinivasa, which exception? Can you please tell me?
Null pointer exception.
Unsatisfied bean dependency.
Unsatisfied bean definition, dependency exception, right? Unsatisfied bean dependency exception. Is that the one, Srinivas?
I think so, sir.
Unsatisfied dependency exception or something. I just forgot the exception name. Let's see that. Exception will be coming, guys. No null value will be assigned to that. But that exception name is, let's say I'm commenting this AutoWire. So Spring will not be able to inject the teacher thing. Okay. Or now
Bean definition not from.
Bean, no, not bean definition not found. Bean definition exception will come when bean definition itself is not available. Now the definition is available, but the dependency it is not able to resolve. Let me just comment out all the component thing that I have here. And also I have one more somewhere else. Computer science also a component implements teacher. Let me just comment out everything. Let me go to app.java. Unsatisfied dependency exception, that name I just want to recall. On no such bean definition exception, student. A student also I commented or something.
You have commented all this.
A student is here, no?
But teacher, you
commented out AutoWire, sir. I think because of that you are not getting the exception. AutoWiring should be there, no, sir.
Oh, did I comment out the AutoWire?
In the student class, teacher.
1 second. Control Shift O. App.java, right click, student. Let's run this. No such bean definition exception student. Student bean is there, no? Here. So bean is there. We're auto-wiring the teacher. Bean, if the bean is there, then what's the problem? Let me just comment out all this method. Now this is a component, right? Now we should get
component scan is disabled.
Component scan is disabled. Yeah, that might be a cause. Let me just remove the learn method. Okay, and just print the class dot get simple name. Okay, let me just print the bean name. Right click, run a Java application. I think that component scan is disabled. No such bean definition exception student. Let me go to the configuration file it uses. Component scan is disabled. Thank you. And now let me just, that's why the definition, it is not able to create the definition. That means it's not able to find the definitions. What is bean definition, guys? Let me just run this. This should work. Let me first complete this, then I'll go. So no such bean, again, student.
You should enable in the student class, the autowide.
No, I don't want to enable. See, the student class is a component already, right? But I'm not talking about an auto-wiring thing. Student is already a component. Now I'm going to the app.java file. It is loading the thing from, it is creating the container out of this configuration file. It has a component scan. Maybe it is not able to scan my package, right? Let me just copy this. And I don't know where it is. Application configuration is here inside this, no? And student is also here. So it should be able to scan, I feel. Then why it is not able to scan? I don't know. Let me just put it explicitly for now. This will not resolve the problem, I feel. After Java, get bean student.class.get simple name.
Get configuration annotation.
Add configuration annotation. 1 second. I think add configuration annotation is not mandatory. Configuration. Let's go to app.java. Right click. Run as Java application. It is not mandatory. There is some other problem. Get student.class. Student.class, we want this bean, right? Come on, man. Oh, okay. Let me just do this out. Put this one inside this. Now we are accessing the student class bean. Run as Java application. Yeah, we're getting the student class bean right now. Then I'll go to student.java. Now this is a component. Now I will remove the auto-wiring thing. I will just do control Z, and I'll just uncomment all my code. Now auto-wiring is here. Let me have the import. Let me auto-wire the teacher. Okay. Now teacher has a dependency, control T. Let me have one dependency. Like I'll go to the math teacher. I'll have the component annotation here. So this bean is available, let's say. Now now nothing will happen. Like everything will work fine. I'll be able to get that student bean, and all the bean will be created, I feel. Unsatisfied dependency exception. Why is that? Right now, student class, auto-where teacher is there. Now it is not able to inject. Okay, it is not able to inject. That's why we are having the problem. But we have a bean available, right, for teacher. Now I have just activated one. This one, Control-Shift-O. Math teacher is available right now for component. Is eligible for component scanning, right? It's scanned. So now this should be injected, and this teach method should have been called inside the teacher class, inside the student class.
You covered both the qualifier and primary.
No, I have 1 second. Let me close everything. Why we are getting... Okay, let me open that. I'll go to math teacher. Okay, math teacher. I have only add component. Primary is not there, and other annotations are not available, right? These are I have commented out already. So math teacher, this is having component. Science teacher is also having component. Okay, that's why it is getting confused, because two different options are available. It is getting confused which one to be injected. Okay, now let's say I will. Now that's why it is getting confused. Okay, that's fine. Now we got the exception that we are having. It is like throwing us an exception because like there are two different implementations are available for this, right? No qualifying bean found two things. It's confused which one to inject. So this one is giving the same exception. Unsatisfied. This one I want to see unsatisfied dependency exception. This exception name I just want to try to see like which one is that. Okay, and also if both the component also will be commenting out, it will also not work, right? You'll also get the same exception because there is, it will try to inject this particular dependency, but it will not find it. And you're going to be getting the same exception. Just for my satisfaction, I'm going to be running it because I want to see that exception. Yeah, unsatisfied dependency exception. Sorry, wasted time. Okay, no problem. Just want to confirm like the exception name once. Okay. So throws exception is the right answer. The next one, look at the question and tell me like if it is a correct one or not. Can we use at profile annotation with at configuration annotation? Yes or no?
Correct.
Correct?
Yeah.
Some more answers. Why correct? How can we use at profile annotation with at configuration annotation? Anybody?
Let us say if we pass profile in the VM arguments. So whatever the configuration class that you want to load, it gets activated. Let's say we have two different configurations.
Yes, correct. So we spoke about it already. Let's say we have different configurations. We can create different configurations like this. Let's say GPay gateway config. We are using configuration annotation here, activating our profile. So our profile is basically getting activated with our configuration, and we are defining the related beans here. And same way we can create different profiles and start defining the profile annotation with that configuration annotation, and we can load it all together using the import right here. Okay, like you can just import different configurations right here in the main configuration file. So that's correct. So we can use that profile annotation with that configuration annotation. This is correct. The next one, please see this.
So basically, profile is something we can use with any annotation, right? I mean, let us say if you want to restrict some set of classes, then we can use simply profile annotation. Correct? I mean,
yes. Like any annotations in the sense, profile can be used with @bean. It can be used @configuration. It can be used @config component. We can also create our custom annotations for that. Okay. So what basically the profiles does? Anybody want to give a shorter and sweet answer? What profiles do? What basically we're achieving with that profile? Yeah, Lavanya, go ahead. No problem. Anybody want to answer? Aditi, yeah, go ahead.
Should I go?
What is the purpose
go ahead.
right?
Manish, go ahead. No problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, profile annotation is used for environment abstraction. So through which actually we can encapsulate our environment and delegate whenever one is looking for what profile actually they need at the runtime.
So based on the so basically we are mapping exactly. We're mapping our beans to a specific profile, right? Let's say there are classes as 100 beans. I have two profiles. I have mapped 50 beans to one profile, 50 beans to one profile. I'm activating one profiles means only for that profile, the bean will be created and activated, right? And ready to be injected whenever that need to be injected for any of the dependency. We are basically mapping the bean with a particular profile and activating as per our need. And if we have different environments like dev environment, prod environment, UID environment, for that, we can activate different profiles, as somebody was saying previously, by using the environment variables or the VM arguments, right? And accordingly, we can just activate the specific profile, let's say the prod profile, whenever we're deploying our application to the production. And that time the profile will come really handy. Okay. What are the application context responsibility? Look at this question. What are the application context responsibility? First, tell me, application context help me to load the resources, correct or not correct? Should I check it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Application context help me to instantiate beans.
Yes.
It's configure and assembles the bean.
Yes.
Yeah. And optimizes the bean in the startup.
No.
There's no optimization. It configures and assembles the bean. It's just help you to create the bean, inject any dependency that you have and get it ready. But it will not optimize the bean on the startup. Oh, sorry. I just said that optimize the bean on the startup. So I'll lose 1 point. I think I
Optimize beans.
Optimize beans in the sense, if for let's say I just put it like that, like for memory related issues or something, like, you know, from the documentation, I just copied some other thing and pasted it over here. So it means, like, you know, optimizing the bean. That means the memory and the other related bean performance related stuff, it optimizes. This is what it does, what it doesn't do. Okay. I think I had to uncheck that, but I don't have a go back button here. I'm really sorry. I cannot go back, but by the time you're going to be practicing this, the back button will be activated, but I should not have checked that one. Okay. Where the autoword annotation can be used.
All of the above are correct.
All of the above are correct. We can use the autoword in the method parameter. Can we use the autoword in the method parameter?
Yes. Yeah, we can use.
Yes. Yeah, in the bean, you know, you have payment gateway. Here is a good example. I have not written autoword, but even though I am not writing it, it's by default the autoword is here. So I can write autoword on the method parameter as well. I can also put autoword in the field label. You know that I can go to any class, I can create a variable on top of that. I can put autoword, and this is correct. This is correct, and also on top of constructor also I can put autoword. But if you have only one constructor, even mentioning autoword is optional, right? So, you know, I can put it or you should not put it, like it's up to you. And it's not need, if there is only one constructor, it doesn't need a autoword annotation. And even Spring will use that constructor, as Vijay was explaining previously, and will inject the dependency for you, even though you are not mentioning autowiring on top of that. So all the above are correct. Next one. Look at this. What does add value? Look at this thing. com.selenium express for spring app spell advanced bean1 name. This spell expression represents what? We are reading a value from a static field name from a bean1 class and injecting it to a variable. Invoking a static method name from the bean1 class and injecting it to a variable. Or accessing the instance variable name is not a static variable, it's an instance variable that we're accessing from the bean1 class. Which one is correct?
Third one.
Third one is an instance variable. Look at that. That is a T symbol here. I'll show you in the anybody, like, if you want to explain. I have copied it from here. Sorry. Look at that. I have already shown you this. Okay, I have already shown you this, but still, yeah, you can see there is a variable called load value from static member, and I'm accessing a variable called name using this T expression and from this class. So this name is a variable or method or what?
It's a variable.
It's a variable, right? Static variables are written like this only, right? Yeah. So which one is correct? Reading value from a static field name from the bean1 class and injecting it to a variable by using the add value annotation. Okay. This is a spell expression. People who are not compatible with spell, Only that is the reason you are not getting it. So make sure that you check out the spell expressions and how to evaluate method, variables and everything. Okay. Next one. What does add value this means? Anybody? Spell expression who have completed it? Can you please help me knowing about it? Invoking the static method calculate salary from the bean1 class and injecting it to a variable. This is not a valid spell expression. A. The option is not
valid.
It's a not valid. No, it's a valid expression, but I have my third option is not correct because I was trying method. It's the instance method, right? That option I was trying to write, but I think unfortunately I copied the second option to here. So so I think all these three options are not correct. So this is basically a method. This is an instance method. Why I'm saying it's an instance method? Because I'm writing with this object reference. This is what the object reference. I'm accessing the bean. How can I access the bean using the spell expression, using the @ annotation? And this method I'm invoking. This is the example, right? You can say there is a calculate salary method, which is the instance method. There is no static keyword before it. And this is from the bean1 class. And I want to execute this method. So how I'm executing it? I'm going over here where I'm doing it. Look at that, this one. bean1.calculate salary. So here I'm just accessing the object, evaluating or invoking the calculate salary method. Then whatever it returns, I'm injecting it to here using this spell expression. So I'll be accessing the bean. This is the bean name. And this is how you're going to be access the bean by putting a @ symbol here. Sorry, I just missed that out and that option is not present. Okay. So it should be invoking a instance method. So this is not correct. So I'll be modifying this one. Okay. This one, a bean cannot be fetched from application context by type. Correct? True or false? A bean cannot be fetched from application context by type. Is true, false, or bean only can be fetched using the bean name?
False.
False. Okay. We can access it by using the type, right? Type means what? Class. You can just give the type .class and it'll return you the bean. The getBean method will return you the bean. The next one, look at this. How can you access properties in Spring? Choose all that applies. Like tell me all the valid ways that we can access properties file from Spring.
Second one is valid.
Second one is valid. First one, there is an environment class, get property method.
Valid.
There is an environment class. We have a get property method. We can give a key and we can get the value. And this is not valid, right? Next one. What are the below things you can achieve with @bean annotations? Choose all that applies. Okay. What you can achieve with @bean annotation, guys? We can decide if a bean is qualified to be considered as an AutoWire candidate for other beans. So you can turn off whether the bean that you are defining using the @bean annotation, if that bean need to be is that bean is eligible to be AutoWire by the other beans. I can define that by using the AutoWire candidate and turning it off or on. We can provide the init and destroy method. We can set multiple alias name for the bean. Which of these things are correct? We can specify the init and destroy method.
1 and 3 is correct.
1 and 3 is correct. 1 and 3. Let's say 1 is correct. 3 is correct. This one is not correct. Let's say this is a bean. Let's say some bean we are creating, GPay payment gateway bean. This is the annotation, right? If I don't want this bean to be available for auto-wiring, I can just do AutoWire candidate false. So I can decide whether this bean will be available for auto-wiring or not. That I can decide using the first option. Okay. Then we can provide the init method and destroy method. I told you guys using the bean also you can define like whether what is the init method is present inside this class. Let's say init method, whatever the method that you are having inside it. And also you can specify the destroy method, right? Which are the lifecycle method. So I can specify init and destroy using the bean as well, right? So this is also valid. Let me just do Ctrl-Z and remove all this thing. Otherwise later we'll have problem. So all these three options are valid. Okay. Do a next. Is BeanFactoryPostProcesser executed before the BeanPostProcesser? Yes, please. Is this thing is correct?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. BeanFactoryPostProcesser executed before the BeanPostProcessor. When the BeanFactoryPostProcessor executed, guys, anybody remember?
After the creation of
BeanFactory initial.
Okay.
BeanFactory gets created.
First, I have shown that lifecycle one. Can I just bring that?
Yeah. After bean definition.
After bean definition, I told you this, right? First, Java config XML file will be loaded. Then bean definitions are getting created. And here comes the bean factory.
Postprocessor, yes.
Yeah. BeanFactoryPostProcessor will be over here. And after the BeanFactoryPostProcessor gets invoked, then the bean will be initialized. Then the dependency and the property will be set. Then the AwareInterface will be called back. And then comes the BeanPostProcessor. Okay. And then the before initialization method of the BeanPostProcessor will be executed. Then the lifecycle methods will be called like post construct, after property set, init method. This will be called in this order. Then the BeanPostProcessor post process after initialization method will be called. Okay. So this will be true. Okay. Perfect. Next one. Look at this. Anybody? Just get me a valid answer. Read the question. When BeanFactoryPostProcessor is invoked, once the container is initialized and the beans are ready to use. Okay, BeanFactoryPostProcessor. I just told. Once the bean definition is created.
Second option.
Number 2. Yeah.
Once the bean definitions are created, but before the actual beans are created, we can alter and manipulate the bean definition programmatically before it actually get initialized. And you can see it in the lifecycle diagram that we have drawn in our class, that before the bean get initialized, before the property will be set, the BeanFactoryPostProcessor will be come into the picture once the bean definitions are getting created. And when the bean definitions are getting created, once the config file will be loaded. What do you mean by bean definitions, guys? What is the difference between bean definition and actual bean object? Anybody?
Avinash, is it the creation of only the factory object or application context object?
Bean definition? Bean definition is simple, Lavanya. It's like you have a bean. You have a bean, like you are creating, let's say, where, like, do we have any bean created? For an example, this is the definition. Okay, this is the definition. Let's say this app config file, let's say where this file is, let's say for here, let's say there is a app.java. Here your container is getting created, right? Your container is getting created out of what? Out of this app config class. We're registering this app config class here, or you can simply just, maybe I will not modify the code. I don't know which class this is. Let's say you are creating a container. Look at this line. You are creating a container 1 out of this appconfig.class file. Now the container will be created. Now the container will be created out of what? Out of this file. And now when Spring will create the container, it will look for all the beans which are available here through the admin annotation, and also it will do a component scan if the component scan is present here. It will also do a component scan. And the component scan will look for all the component marked classes or the repository or the service marked classes. And also it will just create the bean which are defined here with the admin annotation. So these are the definition. And these are like, definitions means what? Definitions means like whatever you have defined. Okay, I have defined this bean. This bean name will be this. The init method will be this. Let's say init method will be ABC. There is a ABC init method inside this payment processor class. This bean will be the AutoWire candidate. I'll make it true. This bean will be available for auto-wiring if any other bean is having a dependency of this. Let's say this bean has a scope called Singleton. This bean is having a scope called, let's say, Singleton or Prototype or whatever. Now this is the definition. This is the definition. This is where I'm defining the bean. So here the bean is not created yet. When the application container will be created, or the container will be created, it will be reading this config file, and out of this config file it will create the definition. Here I have defined the recipe. Okay, and the container will invoke all this recipe, then create the actual food out of it. Okay, so it's like the definition. It will go ahead and create the definition first, then those definition we can alter it through the BeanFactoryPostProcesser. Then it will go through a lifecycle process, and here only it will be initialized. Here only the constructor will be invoked, and then the property will be set. Okay, I hope this is making sense. Okay.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes,
so the options that you have chosen is correct. Okay. Now the next one. Can you define the private beans using @bean annotations inside the configuration file that are annotated with @configuration? So my question is, can I go to a configuration class, let's say this one, and can I make this bean private? Will it work?
No.
Why? No is the correct answer. I cannot define.
It will not be accessible.
It cannot be accessible. Hope, like who is trying to access those beans? I'm telling Spring, no, I'm telling Spring, hey.
Whenever we are creating a container object, that time we are.
Spring container will not be able to access this bean.
Yes.
Okay. So is that the reason? Is that the actual reason? The bean,
I don't know the
the
reason,
bean
but
cannot be private. That is the correct answer. So this option will be what? Can you define private bean? No, that is the option is correct. Now, what is the actual reason? Anybody?
We have the method we cannot use object that
class level scope, right? Private
we can.
I want to answer. Something on the chat. Proxy. Lavanya said proxy. That's the correct thing. Proxy means what? This is something which is coming next. I'll be not going so much in depth of it. In the very next session, we'll be talking about proxy. So basically, guys, Spring uses something called CGLib proxy. Okay. So whatever the beans that you are defining here, so in the real time, what will happen, there will be a subclass of this will be created. And all these beans that you're writing will be, overridden in that particular class. And if you are making this bean, if you are making this, things private, then these things will not be overridden, right? And one more thing is that the proxy will override all your methods. Then, let's say it will try to check, okay, whether those beans are marked as singleton. It will intercept all those methods. It will mark it as singleton. It will initialize those beans and make it eligible for the initialization. So all your beans that you are defining is going through a process internally through the CGLib. It's overriding all these beans and intercepting it, doing certain stuff, and then getting you that particular bean. So a lot of process is happening behind the scene through the proxy. And there is a framework, like we have JDK proxy, dynamic proxy. You remember? I've told you guys to learn my proxy sessions. Like that, we have something called CGLib proxy. This is some kind of, think like a framework. It's not a framework, but think like a framework. And Spring uses CGLib proxy pretty much, and the CGLib proxy will intercept all these methods. So make sure the configuration class that you are defining, it cannot be final. If you are making it final, then it will not also work. This question also comes into the certification exam, because if you are making it final, then I told you, like, proxy will do what? It will extend to this class, then override all the method. If it is a final class, the proxy will not be able to extend to this class, right? So it cannot be final, and the bean methods cannot be private. That's something that you have to take care. Okay, perfect. The next one. Next, what are the places the profile annotation can be used? Help me to check. At Bean, will it be possible to use profile?
Yes. No.
No.
Can be used.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Component.
Yes.
Yes.
Configuration.
Yes.
Yes.
Repository is not possible, right? Repository is not possible.
No, we can.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Yes.
Next one. What is Spring's singleton scopes mean? One bean for the entire application. One bean for the entire JVM context. One bean per container. Which one is correct?
One bean per container.
Container. Okay. Next one. What should we use? Why should we use BeanPostProcesser? Choose all that apply. Multi-selection, guys. Tell me the first option. Is this the correct one for BeanPostProcesser? We can post process a bean after it is initialized and the dependencies are set. we can post process a bean before the init method okay. This is the post processor, huh? This is the bean post processor, not the bean factory post processor. So what are the correct options for that? The bean post processor, like we can post process a bean after it is initialized and the dependencies are set. We can post process a bean before the init method, post construct method, and the after property set methods get called. Is this thing is correct?
Yeah, correct.
So I knew that, right? Like here the bean will be initialized, then the property will be set, then there will be some callback method. Bean post processor will have two methods, I have told you, right? Those two methods, one method will be coming before the initialization and one method will be coming after the initialization. So the before the initialization means all this post construct, after property set, init method before that like if you want to modify something in the bean, actual bean object, then you can use this before initialization method. Then after the initialization methods, this callback methods are called, then you can also use the bean post processor. Okay, so first option is correct. So the second option, let's see that. Bean post processor help us to generate JDK proxy. Is that correct? Let me leave it. Bean post processor allows us to implement post process after initialization in order to post process a bean after the lifecycle methods are called. Correct or not correct? Just told you, right? Right here, post construct after property set, init method. After that, you have a post process after bean, post process after initialization method. This method will be called after all these things. There are two methods, right? Do you remember, or you want me to show the code? Bean post processor, where we have done it. Bean post processor. This one, I feel. Source main Java, quick hint, Bean factory, Bean post processor. Look at that. I told you guys, right? Bean post processor, there is an interface you have to implement. Then there is a post process before initialization method. This method will be called when a bean will be intercepted and before the lifecycle method, after property set or at post construct or any init method defined in your class. Before that, this will be called. You're going to be having access to the actual bean object, and you can basically do anything with this particular bean. So this method will be invoked before all your lifecycle, post construct, init, or the after property set method. Okay, and this method is going to be after the initialization. Like after all your initialization methods called, this method will be called. Like you have two methods. This will come before the initialization. This will come into the picture after the initialization. Okay, so this is what I've defined in the lifecycle. You remember this, right? So this is correct. Any confusion? No, right? Guys, confirm, please.
Yeah.
No, it's very good.
Okay, then the bean post processor gives us the access to the bean object, where the bean factory post processor give access to the bean definition. Is this statement is correct?
Yes.
Yes, right. We can alter the bean definition using the bean factory post processor, where we are actually altering the actual bean object using the bean post processor, right? So bean post processor, you can see a quick example. 1 second, my recording stopped. No, not a problem. I'm recording it here, right? Okay, no problem. I'll take this recording. Till this much is all recorded, not a problem. Oh, it's already 1 hour, huh? Let's quickly complete this. So, okay, so all these three things are correct, right? Let's do a next one. Does standalone Spring application context closes automatically? Is that correct?
No.
Right? We have to use close method or shutdown hook, right? Now it's done. Finish quiz. Let's see how much I score. 25 out of 27 points. Congrats. Okay. So I'll add this quiz into your Spring Core lesson. Go ahead and practice it. Okay. That's it. Let's meet on Wednesday. I'll start proxy. Next week is the last week for the Spring Core. Do practice whatever you want to do. Then we'll just jump to Spring Boot and Spring Boot MVC. Yep. So before I wrap up, any questions for me?
No, I've left.
Vinita, dropping off due to no power. No problem, Vinita. We are wrapping up. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, Vinita.
Yeah.
Sir, yesterday's recording was uploaded, sir, in the...
Yesterday recording is uploaded, Srinivas. Only the day before yesterday recording is not available. We'll be doing it today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? No, right? We can wrap up. Thank you very much, guys. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday. And yeah, bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye.